Yo, welcome back again with another video. Today, we're gonna build Ganyu, because Ganyu will get a rerun in the 2.4 version of Genshin Impact. And also, is she worth pulling? Yes. Now in seriousness, if you like the character, you have the premium gems for the character. Pull for it. And also, if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video so I can know if you want this content, and it will help me a lot if you subscribe to my channel. So yeah, let's get into it. Ganyu's first talent, she will do 6 normal attacks. And now for her charge attack is very special. There's 2 types of it. The first charge attack fires off an icy arrow that deals cryo damage to the opponents. Second charge attack fires off a frostflake arrow. After firing the second charge attack, the arrow will deal cryo damage to the opponents, and after hitting the opponents, the frostflake arrow bloom after hitting the opponents and dealing cryo AoE damage. Ganyu's elemental skill creates an Ice Lotus that deals cryo damage to the opponents, and the Ice Lotus taunts the enemies. And after 6 seconds, the Ice Lotus deals a cryo AoE damage to the opponents, and the endurance of the Ice Lotus scales on the HP of Ganyu. Ganyu's elemental burst creates an AoE field that creates ice shards that deals cryo damage to the opponents, and some ice shards are also randomly spawning, and the duration of the elemental burst is 15 seconds. Moving on for the passive talent of Ganyu. For the first passive talent, after firing a frostflake arrow, the crit rate of the subsequent frostflake arrows and their resulting bloom effects is increased by 20% and for 5 seconds. You can see this by firing the second charge attack, and you will see some effects that Ganyu has. Second passive talent, Ganyu will refund 50% of the ore used when crafting bow-type weapons. For the third passive talent, the Elemental Burst grants a 20% cryo damage bonus to active party members in the AoE of the Elemental Burst. Before we talk about the best artifacts for Ganyu, I'm gonna tell you guys that there's 2 types of DPS for Ganyu. First is the Melt DPS. Mostly you will deal melt reactions more. And the second one is freeze DPS, which is basically you are more focusing in the crit damage, and I'll tell more further on once we talk about the artifacts. The best artifact for Ganyu as a melt DPS is gonna be 4-piece Shiminawa set or 4-piece Wonder Stroke. Now, people has been comparing those 2 artifacts. Both of them is good. I cannot really compare them since the substats are all different. But I researched both of them, and mostly people say there are only a small difference of them. So I'll say whichever has the better substats, you can use that one. And farming for Wonder Stroke is kinda hard. It costs 40 resin, and it's a 50-50 as well, because it can be Gladiator or Wonder Stroke. But if you have not unlocked Inazuma, you can go for Wonder Stroke, since you will need to farm materials for your characters like beating bosses, and you can get Wonder Stroke from it. And in the craft as well, you can transfer your bad artifact stats in the artifact strong box. The best artifact for the freeze DPS Ganyu is gonna be 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. In this set, you won't be focusing in crit rate. You will be more focusing in crit damage, because in 4-piece Blizzard Strayer, you will get 20% crit rate if the enemy is affected by cryo element, and if the enemy is frozen, you will get an additional 20% crit rate, which is going to be in total of 40% crit rate, and plus 20% more, it will be now 60% crit rate. And the other 20% I was saying is from the passive talent, so it will be in total of 60% crit rate. Moving on for the best main stat of the artifacts. Flower will always stay HP, Feather will always stay flat attack. Now in Sands, in Melt DPS can be Elemental Mastery or Attack Percentage, but in Elemental Mastery, I suggest keep doing elemental reactions. Because if you're not doing elemental reactions, your damage is a little more lower. Now in the Goblet, cryo damage bonus. In the Circlet, in the Melt DPS, is gonna be crit rate or crit damage. In the Freeze DPS, crit damage. Moving on for the best weapon for Ganyu. The best weapon for Ganyu is Amos Bow. The next one is gonna be Thundering Pulse, or Skyward Harp, or Polar Star. The next one is Hamayumi Bow, and then the Prototype Crescent. And finally, the last one is Blackcliff Barbow, and the Bear-Medicine Hunt. Before we move on to the Constellation of Ganyu, I will just say some notes for the weapons of Ganyu Freeze DPS and Melt DPS. For the Melt DPS, the Hamayumi Bow, this weapon doesn't synergize well with Shiminawa Reminiscence in the 4-piece Shiminawa Reminiscence due to its passive, so I don't recommend this weapon if you're using 4-piece Shiminawa Reminiscence. For the Freeze DPS and Melt DPS as well, at Prototype Crescent at Refinement Rank 5, with good uptime on its passive, it can potentially beat Skyward Harp. But do in mind that not all enemies have weak spots that you can headshot, which does affect the performance of the Prototype Crescents. Now notes for Melt DPS Ganyu. Ganyu's level 2 charge shot applies to instances cryo, as they do not share the same ICD, which allows you to trigger the melt reaction twice for both damage. Charge attack will be the majority of her damage output, while neglecting her skill and burst damage contribution for most of the time. Now note for the Freeze DPS, when using her elemental burst, make sure to stand inside of the AoE of the elemental burst to get extra from the cryo damage bonus buff in the passive talent of Ganyu. Moving on for the Constellation of Ganyu. C1, taking damage from a charge level 2 Frost Flake Arrow or Frost Flake Arrow Bloom, decreases opponent's cryo rest by 15% for 6 seconds. A hit generates 2 energy for Ganyu. This effect can only occur once per charge level 2 Frost Flake Arrow, regardless if Frost Flake Arrow itself or its bloom hit the target. C2, Trail of Krillin, gains 1 additional charge, which is the elemental skill, so you will be able to do 2 more elemental skill. C3 increases the level of the elemental burst by 3 and maximum upgrade is level 15. C4, upon standing within the AoE of Celestial Shower, taking increasing damage, this effect strengthens over time. Increase the damage taken begins at 5% and increases by 5% every 3 seconds, up to a maximum of 25%. The effect lingers for 3 seconds after opponent leaves the AoE. C5 increases the level of the elemental skill by 3 and maximum upgrade is 15. C6, using the elemental skill causes the next Frost Flake Arrow shot within 30 seconds to not require charging. Now moving on for the team comp for Ganyu in the Melt DPS. Of course, first one is gonna be Ganyu, then Xiangling,
I'll bring my seasonings.
and then gonna be Bennett, and finally a Gatherer, which can be Sucrose, Venti, or Kazuha. But do in mind, make sure in the elemental burst of Sucrose or Kazuha or Venti is affected by Pyro, so you can deal melt reactions. For the Priest DPS Ganyu, it's gonna be Ganyu of course, and then Mona or Barbara. If you don't have Mona, you can use that as a substitute. But since I have Mona, of course I'll be using Mona.
This is how it must be.
And the next one is gonna be the Yona, which will give you a shield
The hunt
and the
begins.
healing, and more energy particles for Ganyu, so you can do more elemental bursts. If you don't have the Yona, you can use Kea as a substitute. But I have Diana, so I'll be using Diona. And finally, the next one is a gatherer, which can be Venti or Sucrose and Kazuha.
I want to help.
Now, you can remove the gatherer. You can use a sub DPS instead, which can be Rosaria or Chongyun and maybe Aloy. I'm not so sure, but I don't really suggest sub DPS, but it's really your choice if you want to bring one. If you just don't have a gatherer, you can use a sub DPS instead. So yeah, that is all for the team comp. Let's go try it out.
Think you can get away?
Another test.
Look at you, Boomtail! Fate is upon you! Blink! Look at me! Nice and spicy! Time for takeoff! You're toast!
I got carried.
Let me amuse myself a little more. Going in! The more, the merrier. Shine. Light it up! Animal test 6308. Absorption test. Born of ice and frost. Everybody stand back! Access denied. Enhanced Animal Module 75. Animal Test 6308. Animal Test 60. No touching. Stand clear. Shaken and stirred. Decided by destiny. This is long overdue. Shadows of fate. Whoa, Mark 2. Think you can bully me? Can't handle your drink. Delve into destiny. Absorption test. Stand clear. No touching. All hail. Sketch. Lucky scribe. Enhanced Animal Module 7. Look at you, Boomtail. Written in the stars. Blaze over. Access denied. Born of ice and frost. Stand clear. Swirl. Mark 2. I'm going in. Nice and spicy. You're toast.
So yeah, that is Ganyu. If you are new here as well, don't forget to subscribe and like this video so I will know this is the kind of content you want. And also, sorry I've been not posting for a while now. I was quite busy during Christmas. And yeah. And also, New Year is coming. So, Happy New Year to you guys in advance. Or Happy New Year if you're literally watching this at New Year. So yeah. And see ya. Have a great day.